Today's video, I want to talk to you guys about indicator fishing. Now, indicator fishing for you new guys is basically bobber fishing for fly fishermen. Now, we're fly fishermen, so we're too good to bobber fish, so we call it indicator fishing. But all an indicator is a bobber. And it's basically a flotation device that's up on top of the water, so whatever is subsurface on the water, if it gets any kind of movement, it hits it and it knocks it to where you can see what's going on. So I'm going to show you guys the different methods of indicators that I use. There's way more out there, I'm sure. I'm going to show you guys what I use, some of the things I make, some of the things that I buy, and things that you can do to improve them. So if you're going to indicator fish, you can make them. There's several of them that you can make that don't cost hardly anything at all, or you can buy some of the higher end ones that cost in the area of $3 plus a piece. So I'll show you each kind, how to make a few of them, and how to use them. So first and foremost, if you're trying to save some money and you're not wanting to invest a bunch of money in indicators, I have a video that you guys can go in my playlist and look, and it's basically a craft foam indicator. Now you can get craft foam, the little sheets of craft foam. You can get a whole package, a giant package of it for $5. If you're a fly tire, you probably already have some. And basically what I do is I put it in a noodle maker and I rip it into little bitty strips like this. Then I take them strips and I push them through an O-ring, which is this O-ring I'm tugging on right here, the top one. I fold them back over and I slide the O-ring over them. They work really well. I use these things for years, and I sell a lot of these things. I don't use them anymore unless I'm kind of out of the other ones, because there's some better options out there. But if you want to make your own and not spend a bunch of money, these things are super easy to use. All you do is you take your leader and you fold it in half to where it has a loop. You push the loop of your leader into that O-ring, and you push it through. When you get enough of a loop over, you just bring it over and then pull it tight, so this thing is now stuck inside your leader. You can move them up and down. They work really well. You can make them in the colors are unlimited. These things work really well. You can make them for pennies a piece. The little O-rings, you can order them online, or you can go to your hardware store and pick them up. They don't cost hardly anything. So the next method that you can use to make your own is basically the exact same thing, and you're using poly fibers. So like EP fibers, or if you want to buy your own stuff, you can go to the craft store and they sell what's called Bonnie cord. And Bonnie cord is basically just a polyester yarn. So any polyester yarn is going to work really well. And you make the exact same thing. You run it through, fold it through, you can make the exact same thing. Now you can also use like orthodontist rubber bands and tie your line up to where these can go on. Now these work really well. They're really, really gentle on the water. So if you're technical fishing in an area that the fish are really spooky, these things are amazing. The only problem is they will weight down, so you need to use something like gink. And if you can't get gink, gink is awesome. It's what I've been using for decades, and a bottle will last you forever. But if you can't get your hands on some gink, there's other flotation substances out there, but you can also get like a silicone spray lubricant, and it does the exact same thing. I don't know if they're the same stuff. They kind of look like the same thing, and for years that's what I used, just because it was way cheaper. I could get way more. So all you got to do is apply a little bit of that, and they keep these things floating. Now I don't do that. As I was fly fishing with indicators, I learned that these things, they kind of look like a cottonwood tree has fallen in the water, and the fish will come up and actually hit on these indicators a lot. So when you're fishing with these things, I take and I tie them onto a hook. So all I do is just tie this little thing onto a hook, gink it up just like I would, and then I tie my tippet onto the end of this with a Davy knot. Now I have a video that shows you how to tie a Davy knot as well. It's the easiest knot there is to tie, and it's one of the most versatiles. And I didn't know that for a long time. I was showed it by like a master fly fisherman, and man, it changes everything. That works really, really well, especially where there's spooky fish. So these things, you can make them for nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing. A little bit of yarn. That little spool of yarn costs like $5, and there's probably 5,000 feet on it. I mean, these things are basically free. So these work really well as well. I don't use them a lot anymore unless it's really technical fishing, because if I'm using something like this, I'm going to go to a hopper dropper set. So when I say a hopper dropper, it's going to basically be the exact same thing. And we're going to have a top fly, and this is a chubby Chernobyl, one of the easiest flies there is to tie. Now, I don't know if I actually have a video of this, how to tie one. If I don't, I'll go through and look, and I'll make one, because this is the easiest fly there is, and one of the best indicators for summertime fly fishing. If you're fishing in the summer where there's grasshoppers and crickets and stuff like that in the water, these things, I mean, the fish will attack them. If you're fishing a midge underneath, sometimes these things will catch more fish than the midges will. Great, great fly to have for that. They're craft foam and EP fibers. Basically craft craft foam and Bonnie fibers, and you can do this thing. I mean, easy, easy, easy. Tie a davy knot on the bottom, and you're in business. You're floating in the water. Now, I live in Oklahoma, and we fish trout basically from November to March in almost all of the state. There's one area of the state that's got a 24/7, 365-day year trout fishery, but it's on the opposite end of the state. So the places that I fish are basically winter fisheries. So we don't have a lot of hatches, so there's not a lot of dry flies. There's not grasshoppers out there. However, stalker fish are dumb. You can still use this thing. On warm days, you'll see them fish rising, and I have caught fish on a chubby Chernobyl in the middle of the wintertime. These stalker trout, they'll hit on anything. Most of the time, they're on the bottom, but if you see them rising up every once in a while, put a chubby on and drop something below it. There's a chance you'll catch a fish. These things work really well. So them are the two that you can kind of basically make yourself. Now, you can also buy these little bad boys that are a piece of foam that's sticky, and you just fold it over your leader. They work. They're fast. They're easy. They don't use a lot of space, so they're kind of hard to see, and they're really, really sensitive. To each their own. I don't like them, but that's a method that they have out there. And like I say, they just fold over your leader. So once they're on, they're kind of hard to adjust. The only thing is they don't cost anything. They're really cheap to get, so it's not an issue. I don't really like them. Second kind that they have that I don't use a lot, but they work okay. And there's these little bad boys like this. And basically, it's got like a piece of rubber inside it. So all you got to do is push your leader onto it, and it goes up on there, and it holds it in place. And you can pull them up and down. They work okay, but they tend to fall apart faster than most things. For the money, you can get these things a lot cheaper than a lot of the other strike indicators. So they're not a bad option. The next option, which is a really good strike indicator, if you're young, you have good eyes, and your fingers are working, and you're not fishing in the middle of wintertime. And that's these bad boys. And basically what it is it's a little piece of foam or some sort of material that floats, and it's got a little shaft on it. And it's got a little washer. So you pull that little washer, and you'll see the notch. You slide your leader down in there. You put that washer back on. You notice I didn't take it off because I drop them all the time. And then you screw this thing on. And it just floats on the water. These things are amazing. They work really, really, really well. However, even the manufacturer who made them knows that that little washer is a pain in the butt, and you're going to drop it all the time. So they put extra in the package. So when you're fishing in the wintertime and your hands are really cold, these things, they're hard for me. They work really well, and if you're able to feel your fingers and do stuff, it's great. But if you drop that little washer, it won't stay tight, and it'll fall off and you'll lose. So then we come to what I think is the best that there is, and these are called Oros. And basically, it's very similar to that, except instead of having the little end on it, it's two halves that screw in together. So you put your leader inside of this side, and then you screw the other side on. They work great. You can get them in different colors. They have like an orange. They have white, and then they have pink, and they have them in two different sizes. You can see there's the little one, and then there's the big one. So depending if the water's calm, I always go to something smaller. You know, the more discreet you can be, the better. But if the water's big and ripply and you're having a hard time seeing, put on a bigger one. Now, Oros, best there is. As far as I'm concerned, there's the best there is. However, they got a design flaw. When you are tying your Oros, that side is threaded. This side is not. It's an outie and an innie. So you put your fly line on there and you tie it. So it's easy to do the first time, but when you're out on the water and you're wanting to adjust, so say you pull it up your leader and your leader gets bigger, they'll be okay. They'll tighten, so you can kind of squeeze and tighten them. But if you drop them down to raise your fly, your line is getting smaller. So if you don't know what side to twist, you'll start twisting your leader. And if you start twisting your leader or tip it, then you end up with knots and, kinks, and it's just not a good thing. So you don't want to do that. So something that I do is I'll either take two different colors, and I will put two different colors of these together. So like I'll have a white and a pink, to where one side I know is the side I screw or one side isn't. But that's even hard to remember. So what I do is I take a Sharpie marker and I draw a line. And I always draw a line on the side that I'm going to use to twist. So if you take your Sharpie marker and you draw that line, then all you got to do is twist that on, and you'll never twist the other side around on your leader. and it's simple. I mean, you can't see it. It doesn't affect anything, and it just saves that little bit of headache. So as far as I'm concerned, these are the best thing that's made, especially if you're fishing in cold weather, because your hands can mess with them. You can put these things with gloves on. So they work really, really, really well, but they're like $3 a piece. That's a little bit high for something that, you know, may fly off, you may lose, you may break off, and, you know, that adds up pretty quick. I use them. I like them. One of the best products there are. They're a really good thing. So if you use them, draw your line. It'll save you a lot of headache. So that's basically the kind of indicators that they make. Now they make stuff like this. It's called indicator putty, and it's like some goo inside there, and you can pick it off and goop it onto your fly line. It kind of works. It'll fly off, and I don't like it as much. Again, not adjustable. It's just kind of a disposable deal. It'll work. If you can afford it, buy Oros. If you can't afford Oros, make your own out of Bonnie cord or make your own out of craft foam, and they work almost as good. They're a better option, I feel, than anything that you can buy on the market, except Oros. They're the greatest that there are. So I hope this tip helps. And if you guys are looking for any of these products that are on there, in my description is affiliate link to Bass Pro. It helps me kind of keep this channel going. I get a little commission off anything you guys buy. It's a store-wide thing. So if you're buying stuff off Bass Pro, if you click on the link in the description here, it'll really help me out. So I appreciate you guys who support me, and that's another way that you can. So thank you guys for watching all the time, and I hope these tips help, and we will see you guys in the next video.